thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Katie.
So we're here to talk about your software-defined moment as a technologist, when you stopped thinking hardware and you started thinking software first.
Yes. So just go.
Go ahead.
All right. It's actually, so I've been working in VMware for the past 20 years. And about 5 years ago, I started also doing AWS. Working for GreenPages, I'm a solutions architect and I do pro services for them. And so a lot of my customers were asking, tell me about this new AWS stuff. So I started learning about it and I got into it. And a lot of the crossover of taking a couple of vCenters and having like multiple environments, multiple data centers, and all of those setups, all of those regional setups with the DR sites and everything, that became so much easier once I started plugging them into AWS. A lot of what we're calling the hybrid cloud, the public and the private cloud connectors, and the positioning and creation of those systems. So here's the example. I would say it would take me from provisioning to completely having an up and running environment using VMware, and we're talking about buying hardware and we're talking about buying licenses and standing up operating systems and all that stuff. Having an environment set up and running from a procurement perspective, we're talking 6 months. Granted, once you have your VMware environment up and running, you can then provision operating systems and VMs within minutes. Keep that in your head. We got 6 months, and then we got a couple of minutes.
Okay.
On the AWS side, once I started doing the network provisioning and the software-defined network and infrastructure as code, all of that, the entire provisioning spectrum, from the provisioning of the availability zones and the routing and the actual instantiation of the instances and setting up the databases on the back end and connecting all of them together, with one large YAML file, with one CloudFormation template, I will go from 6 months to now at the current timing. I actually timed it. It takes 27 minutes.
Wow.
So from going from 6 months to 27 minutes.
It's incredible.
Really set the light bulb off, and that's tearing it down, spinning it back up. You can do that all day long, and you don't have to buy hardware. You don't have to buy routers. You don't have to plug things together. So once I got that light bulb, once I got that aha moment in my head, people then naturally ask me about, okay, let's do it via NSX, let's do it with all the networking stuff. And so then I flipped back and I started doing it in PowerShell. I started using PowerShell to create network and availability zones. Well, I'm crossing names there a little bit, but standing up stuff both on the VMware side and the AWS side, and then connecting the two, and then setting up my route tables and pointing them at each other. So that's when I got my aha moment.
And what about with customers? As you're out meeting with customers, have you witnessed little aha moments of those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of my customers, when they come up to me, they ask me, how fast can I get this? I mean, they we bill by the hour, so they want to know how fast they can get this done. So, you gather your requirements, you figure out what it is exactly that they want, and then you start describing to them the different services and the different possibilities that they can do when they're standing these things up. Up in the cloud, you don't have to create a VM and then install Windows on it and then install SQL on it and then then make a copy of that and set up replication between the two. You just say go RDS, and that all happens for you. That happens for you on the back end, and then it presents a 1433 connector to you, a SQL connector to you, and you're good to go. So when they see that, when they see the power of that, and they find out that you don't have to have not just a SQL developer, but also like a SQL DB maintenance person and a storage person that'll take care of all the backend for you. When all of that morphs into one package, and that person can take care of all those things at the same time, that's really what hits the light bulbs for them.
And I know you're heavily plugged into the community.
I try to be.
What does community mean to you? I mean, we're at VMworld. I know that the community here is a major part of why people attend VMworld. But what does it mean to you?
Community is everybody that wants to sharing their information. So I do a lot of it, and I started with vBrownBag. and
Big plug there.
And so I was using the vBrownBag YouTube videos to learn to pass my VCAP. I did the VCAPs, and I started talking to Al and John a couple of years ago, and I said, I love what you guys do. What can I do to help? And that was like, they got their hooks into me.
Right.
So I started helping them. Now I'm running the back end for the Tech Talks over here, but we also do the nightly webinars. And then I got into helping to run an AWS user group and a virtualization technology user group up in New England.
Wow.
And the blog, mistwire.com.
Oh my gosh. Shameless here.
Shameless. I'm so
That's
shameless.
good. We love it.
And all of that turns into this positive feedback loop, because there's a lot of other people in the community that are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And everybody just really wants to help each other, and it's really just like this big warm hug where everybody that's like, oh, I'm having a problem with X. 7 people that are an expert in X will come out of the woodwork and say, oh, well, you just got to do this and you got to do that, and it's really gratifying, because in a lot of IT shops, there's that person that hoards all the information to themselves, and they don't want to give anybody the passwords, and oh, I got to have my job security and stuff like that. Everybody in the VMware community, they're just like, yeah, this is how you do it. This is how you set it up.
And it's funny because I've talked to a few other vExperts, and they've all had a similar experience in that, they've learned things and they've learned and become where they are today through the community and other people's blogs and YouTube videos.
And there is a piece of like a competition to it, like a friendly rivalry. We all have it, and we're all like, oh, you got that cert? Oh, if he can do it, I can do it. But then as soon as we say that, then that person, they immediately start helping to, okay, this is how I studied, and like on my blog, I wrote the entire process of how to study to pass all of your AWS exams.
Wow.
And this rent this video and watch this thing and then go take this class, and that's what I did. And people have done that back to me for like my VCPNV, which I just took. And everybody's just so generous with their knowledge and their time.
So we're talking about AWS. What do you think about VMC on AWS? Is that something you're excited about?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great bridge from the two. So, like I said, I have 20 years of VMware experience, and I have 5 years of AWS experience. So
sure.
I've got a foot in both camp, and there's a lot of people that are scared of AWS because it's different. I mean, when something is new and very, very foreign, people they kind of shy away from it. This is a perfect bridge to get your traditional VMware administrator used to some of the terminology, used to running like EBS on the back end for a VMDK, or running an RDS instance that feeds into a front end VMDK or something like that. And what that does is that it gives them that taste, and it's not in a threatening manner, so that it allows them to dip their toe into it, go, oh, well, what else can I do? How else do I get into this? And then as soon as they like start playing with VPCs and carving out subnets and availability zones, then they just go crazy. Just watching them light up is really cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're fun to light up, because it's literally the best of both worlds. You have a giant mess of services on the AWS side that can actually take direct advantage of the services from the VMware side. So somebody that is good with both of them can make it sing and dance. It's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Are there any other emerging trends that you're excited about, or we should be looking forward to, I should be looking forward to?
Emerging trends, well, I mean,
in your crystal ball?
This entire conference has been about Kubernetes, of course.
Yep.
So everybody's like containers.
Yeah.
I'm going to buck the trend. I'm going to say, take a look at the serverless stuff. I mean, so there's physical servers, there's virtualized servers, then there's containers, which is a stripped down OS, and then there's serverless, which is no OS. And so there's use cases for all 4 options. There is the time and place for containers, but there's also all the other flavors as well. I'm actually really, really fascinated with the options for serverless, to see where that's going to go, and to see how VMware can leverage the serverless offerings both in AWS and in Azure when they finally have vSphere on Azure to leverage.
So what would you say would be a top use case for serverless?
Oh, that's a 7-hour conversation.
Oh gosh.
There's so many things. I mean you can take anything that you can write, in code, you can turn it into a function in a serverless option. I mean, there's entire web servers running as serverless. There's entire application stacks running serverless to a stateful backend. That's a gigantic question.
Well, we only have so much time here on this scale.
Right, totally. My butt will fall asleep.
I know, mine might too. Well, thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for joining me today. This has been fun.
Thank you, Katie. I enjoyed it.
When you're ready to make your tech confession, join us at techconfessionstheshow.com.